King Henry VIII met a gruesome end befitting one of the most feared monarchs in history. His body became so grotesquely swollen and foul-smelling that it made his attendants faint. After his death, fluids from his corpse leaked out of the coffin and were licked up by a stray dog. This highlights the transience of life and shocking events that even the most powerful cannot escape. And Queen Elizabeth I, the iconic monarch of England, did you know that her beauty secrets were secretly destroying her from within? So much so that those closest to her were chilled to the bone when they discovered a mysterious letter after her death. This speaks to the audience's desire for hidden truths and deeper insights. Or a teenage king, Henry VIII's beloved son, who met such a chilling end that it was considered a blessing for England due to his perverse nature. This taps into the audience's preference for drama and shocking stories. Today we will uncover 20 strange truths about the deaths of England's most powerful kings and queens. Things you might have never known about royal history. William the Conqueror's explosive death. Few know that England's first king after the Norman conquest, William the Conqueror, died in an explosive manner. After passing away at 59 from a riding injury, his body was transported to Rouen Cathedral. But due to rapid decomposition and a coffin that was too small, as they tried to force him in, his body burst, creating a gruesome spectacle and an unbearable stench that forced the entire church to evacuate. An ignoble end for the man who utterly transformed England's history. William Rufus, the mysterious death and ultimate rejection. William II Rufus, son of William the Conqueror, was mysteriously assassinated during a hunting trip. Though nothing is certain, the theory that he was murdered by his own brother, fratricide, is highly plausible. But even stranger was that after his death, his body was left abandoned in the forest until a group of peasants brought him back to Winchester on a cart. He was even denied a Christian burial, a sign of non-acceptance even in death, possibly due to his open homosexuality and being considered addicted to all vices, especially lewdness, and above all to sodomy. This directly addresses the audience's interest in LGBTQ plus historical figures and human struggles against prejudice. Henry I and the fateful meal. King Henry I, William II's successor, was known for his large army of illegitimate children, but only had 2 legitimate ones. His death was remarkably mundane and bizarre. He is said to have died after eating too many lampreys, a dish he loved but was advised by his doctor to avoid. Sometimes, it's the smallest desires that lead to the greatest demise. Edward II, the most horrifying death in royal history. This is arguably one of the most bizarre and terrifying deaths in English royal history. Edward II, a king widely known to be homosexual or bisexual, enraged the nobility due to his relationships with men. Ultimately, he was overthrown by his own wife, Queen Isabella of France, dubbed the She-Wolf of France, and her lover. Edward was imprisoned and brutally assassinated. He was impaled with a red-hot poker through his anus. A tragic and ghastly end for a king who defied social norms. This content resonates with the audience's love for drama, shocking details, and stories of individuals challenging prejudice. Richard I, the Lionheart, the Lonely Warrior King. Richard I, also known as Richard the Lionheart, was a great warrior but spent very little time with his queen, Berengaria of Navarre, and had no children with her. Historians still debate his intensely close soulmate-like relationship with King Philip II of France, with records noting they ate at the same table, shared dishes, and their beds were not far apart. In the end, this knightly king died tragically. He was wounded by a crossbow bolt during a siege. The wound became gangrenous, and he died in his mother's arms. Richard II, the last kiss of a forbidden love. Richard II, a young king who ascended the throne at just 10 years old, was also believed to be homosexual. He granted the title Duke of Ireland to his lover, Robert de Vere, an act that caused great outrage among the nobility. After de Vere died abroad, Richard had his body brought back to England. In a moment of profound affection, the king ordered the coffin opened, kissed his friend's hand, and looked at his face one last time. This was a shocking act at the time, showing the intense bond between them. Ultimately, Richard was overthrown and assassinated by his own cousin Henry at the age of 32. This emphasizes the human aspect of powerful figures and their emotional struggles. Henry IV, the horrific dissolution. Henry IV, who seized the throne by killing his cousin Richard II, faced numerous rebellions. He died in 1413 after a long period of suffering from a terrible illness, a rare skin disorder that caused his body to gradually melt away. It was a painful and ghastly death, reflecting the harshness of the power he had seized. Henry V, the unexpected death of the Agincourt hero. The illustrious warrior king Henry V, who won a resounding victory at the Battle of Agincourt and brought England to the pinnacle of its power, had a surprisingly and rarely mentioned death. Not in battle or due to conspiracy, he died of heat stroke during a campaign in France. Even the strongest cannot escape a harsh fate from natural elements. Henry VI, smothered to death. At the end of a weak dynasty, Henry VI, a king believed to suffer from mental illness and disinclined to rule, was overthrown during the Wars of the Roses. In the fierce power struggle, he was eventually murdered. Historians believe he was smothered with a pillow while imprisoned in the Tower of London, a tragic and silent death for a weak king amidst a political storm. Edward IV, the mysterious death of the handsome king. Edward IV, a handsome and powerful king, had a tumultuous life filled with fierce family conflicts. However, his death in 1483 remains a mystery. Although the culprit is uncertain, many believe he died by poisoning. His death ushered in a new era of instability for England. Henry VII, the lonely death of the dynasty founder. The founder of the Tudor dynasty, Henry VII, though historically recognized as a capable king who consolidated power after the Wars of the Roses, also harbored deep personal tragedies. While his marriage to Elizabeth of York was initially a political arrangement to secure the throne, they truly fell in love and had many children. However, the relentless childbearing to ensure an heir claimed Queen Elizabeth's life, leaving Henry in the grief of losing his beloved partner. After building one of England's greatest dynasties, Henry VII ultimately died in old age from tuberculosis in 1509. A seemingly peaceful but lonely end for a king who had lost his dearest loved one. Margaret Pole, the 11 axe blows death. She was a 67-year-old woman so resilient that she became Henry VIII's biggest rival. Standing before the execution block, Margaret Pole adamantly refused to kneel, declaring she was no traitor. Her resistance, combined with the inexperience of the replacement executioner, led to a horrific and brutal death. She endured 11 axe blows before dying. This was not merely a death, but a martyrdom, turning her into a symbol of resistance against Henry VIII's tyranny. This vividly portrays the shocking and tragic side of history, a key interest for the audience. Henry VIII, rotting alive. King Henry VIII, once a charismatic and healthy man, ended his life in absolute decay. From a jousting injury, the wound on his leg never healed, turning into a continuously oozing open ulcer, rotting to the point where bone could be seen through the flesh. The disgusting stench from his wound was so foul it caused his courtiers to faint, forcing them to use perfumed handkerchiefs or vinegar to cover their noses when near him. Along with the tormenting ulcer, Henry VIII became severely obese, weighing over 400 pounds with a waist circumference exceeding 50 inches. He needed a special pulley system to move between rooms, and palace doorways had to be widened. Even after his death, the humiliation didn't end. Due to his enormous size, a special coffin was built. During transport, or while awaiting burial, the coffin swelled and burst open from internal pressure, spilling putrid fluids onto the chapel floor, and according to contemporary accounts, stray dogs discovered and licked up the vile fluids. A death both horrifying and humiliating for an absolute monarch. This extreme detail fulfills the audience's desire for deep, shocking and meaningful content. Mary I, the tragedy of the Bloody Queen. Mary I, often historically branded Bloody Mary for her persecution of Protestants, though her father killed tens of times more for political purposes, showing a patriarchal bias in historical perception. carried a deep personal tragedy. What she desired most in life was to be a mother. Hoping for an heir, she married her cousin Philip of Spain in 1554. After a period where she believed she was pregnant, a supreme hope, doctors shattered that illusion with a cruel announcement. She was not pregnant, but actually suffering from cancer. This death from a dreadful disease ended the life of a queen full of suffering and unfulfilled longing. This explores the human aspect and emotional journey of historical figures. Queen Elizabeth I's toxic beauty secrets. Queen Elizabeth I was famous for her ghostly pale complexion, thanks to Venetian Ceruse cosmetics, whose main ingredients were white lead and vinegar. She also used mercury-containing products on her lips and for makeup removal. She used these highly toxic cosmetics for decades, undoubtedly contributing significantly to her deteriorating health, making her body literally toxic. Her beauty secrets may have been what silently killed her every day. In her final days, Elizabeth I's health severely declined. However, a shocking detail is that she refused to lie down. She believed that if she lay down, she would never get up again. This strange belief forced her to stand continuously for 15 hours, while her ladies-in-waiting had to arrange pillows around her in case she fell at any moment. A death both proud and tragic. Edward VI, the perverse teen king and his horrifying death. History often portrays Edward VI, Henry VIII's beloved son, as a frail and short-lived young king. But the truth is far darker. From a young age, Edward had a disturbing fondness for witchcraft and a strange obsession with magic and astrology, enjoying reading spells with his sister Elizabeth. He also displayed a cruel and potentially brutal side, even finding it amusing when 900 rebels were massacred. When he died at 15, his body was swollen like an overripe fruit and painful sores appeared all over his skin. Though his body was weak, Edward's mind remained sharp. On his deathbed, he was recorded whispering, "I am glad to die." This is a prime example of uncovering hidden truths and shocking details that appeal to the audience. James I as the secret passage to forbidden love. King James I, who united the English and Scottish thrones, was openly bisexual and had many male lovers. To facilitate meetings with one of his most important lovers, George Villiers, he had a secret passage built connecting his bedroom to Villiers' room. Even stranger, after his death, his tomb at Westminster Abbey lies right next to the tombs of two of his male lovers. This piece highlights the personal and often overlooked aspects of historical figures. Queen Anne, 17 pregnancies and a medical secret. Queen Anne, the last monarch of the Stuart dynasty, had a tragic life with 17 pregnancies, but most ended in miscarriage or stillbirths. Medical historians believe many of her pregnancy losses were due to her suffering from Hughes syndrome, sticky blood. What's astonishing is that a common medication today, aspirin, could have thinned Anne's blood and saved her children. This is a sorrow that modern science could have resolved, but it was a tragic fate for a queen. This connects historical events with broader reflections on life and fate. George II, death in the lavatory. King George II's death in 1760 is one of the strangest in royal history. One morning he woke up and went to the lavatory. Moments later, his attendant heard a loud crash. Essentially, George fell into the toilet and broke it, after which he was lifted back into bed and declared dead due to internal injuries. An unimaginable end for a king. Edward VII, 30 cigarettes a day, and a predestined death. Edward VII, Queen Victoria's son, was famous for his extravagant lifestyle. He was a heavy smoker. His death in 1910 was due to acute bronchitis, most likely a direct consequence of his habit of smoking up to 30 cigarettes a day. A death that shows even kings cannot escape the consequences of personal choices. George V, a broken vow and a harsh fate. George V, Edward VII's son, declared his hatred for his father's extravagant lifestyle and vowed never to repeat it. Yet, ironically, he also died of bronchitis, the same disease that claimed his father's life. who was known for his habit of smoking up to 30 cigarettes a day. A bitter end, showing that no matter how hard one tries, fate sometimes pushes us into similar tragedies, repeating the mistakes we once yearned to avoid. This emphasizes the transience of life and life shocks. Elizabeth II, Queen of an Era and the End of a Legend. Queen Elizabeth II passed away on September 8, 2022. Her life was a long and tumultuous journey, witnessing profound global changes. Her final years were not without challenges and deep sorrow, especially the passing of her beloved husband, Prince Philip, after decades together. Her death, after a long period of serving the nation, closed an era, showing that even the greatest icons cannot escape the tragedy of human existence and the impermanence of fate, which she bravely carried until her last breath. Death, even for those at the highest echelons of power, spares no one, and sometimes it arrives in ways no one expects, revealing shocking secrets about human nature and society. We have explored 20 strange truths about how they died. Which story surprised you the most? Is there anything you'd like to delve deeper into? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. We always want to hear your opinions. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on other unique and dramatic historical stories from Mr. Q. See you in the next video, where we will continue to uncover the hidden truths behind history.